Hello guys, today we'll be looking at data wrangling for pandas. Now, data wrangling is the act of checking for missing values and replacing these missing values. Now, the first thing we are going to do now if you look at the first column, we have the list of libraries that we need to import. So we have the import pandas as PD and import numpy as NP. Okay, so these two libraries are very important. So I'm going to run the cell using the shift enter. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to uncomment this information, the data frame which we have here, using your control question mark key. If you use that, you're going to uncomment this set of code. Now, what we have here is the data frame holding the names, gender, age, and salaries. And we can see in our salaries, we have NEN, meaning not a number. So that's the missing value. So when I use the df, that's to run information, you can see I have my data set. But in our salaries, we have the NEN and NEN2. So what are the methods we use to handle missing values? We have the drop now, we have the front view, we have the back view, and we have the fill now method. All right, so we're taking all of them one step at a time. Now, the first one is the drop now. So to do the drop now, I'm going to say df1, which is a new variable, and the df.copy, meaning that I want to copy the information and transfer it to df1. So the next thing I'm going to do is df1 dot drop now. So drop now is the function responsible to want to drop the information. So what drop now method does is that it's going to drop all the rules related to the missing value. So when I do this and I call df1, now you can see that we do no longer have 1 and 4 because they have missing values. So what we have done is we have dropped the entire information here. Now the next one to look at is the front forward field. So the forward field talks about we want to replace use a value before the missing value to replace that missing value. How is it? So I'll say df2. I'm going to copy df, and I'm going to say the df2 dot ff field, meaning forward field, and I'm going to pass in place is equals to true, meaning that we want to perform our work successfully. Okay, is to make the work permanent. All right, so when I do the df2 now, you will notice that I am going to have the same information. So where do we have our missing values? Was in row 1 and row 4. Row 1 and row 4, yes. So if you look at row 1 now, row 1 has the same value as the first one, that's index 0. Then row 4 has the same value as the index 4. That's for the forward field. Then for the backward field, what's going to happen now? The backward field is the inverse, meaning we want the value before the missing value to replace the missing value. So I'll say the df3 is equals to df.copy, and I say df3 dot bf view field, meaning backward field, and I say the in place is equals to true. When I do this now, df3, when I run this information, you can see that we have replaced the information, but we have not replaced the last one. Why? Because there is no value after the missing value. That's why there's no value after the missing value. All right, so there are different methods. So we have just looked at 3 methods. Then one other method which we can use is the fill now. So the fill now means we are going to take an information, let's say value, and fill up those missing values. Now, how do we do this? So I'll say the df. I want to use the main df to do this to perform this task. So I'll say the df dot. So I'll specify in terms of where do I want to fill this information. I'll say the df. Then I'll specify salaries. Then equals to so I'll say the df dot fill now. Oh, sorry, we'll move this. Let's move this. So say df dot fill now. Then I pass in the information. So let's say we want to use the mean, we want to get the mean value. So to get the mean value, I'll say np dot mean, then I'm going to pass in the units, the mean, So if we want to pass in the mean, so we're going to specify in terms of what where we want to replace this information. So say salaries, then inside the, remember we have not closed the brackets, so I'm going to write in place is equals to true. Okay, so if we do this now and we say df, we should have all the mean values. So you can see we have used the mean value of salaries to replace the missing values. Okay, so that's what it's going to do. It's going to replace all these, the missing values in salaries, using the mean value of salaries. So that's how to perform handle missing values. So just a reminder, we did the backfill, the forward fill, the drop now, and the fill now method. Now, there's another thing again we need to know is that we have what we call stacked. Stacked means we want to convert the rows into columns into rows, like we have here. So you can see the definition. Stacked to convert the columns into rows. So to do this, I'm going to uncomment this information, and I'll change this to capital letter DF. Then I'll call it DF1. So if I run this now, I should have my information. Then what I'm going to do under here is I'm going to create a new cell. Now I want to perform a stack, okay, function on this data frame. So I'll say stack underscore df is equals to the df dot stacked. So the stacked, we call it in the open bracket, close bracket, because it's a function. So say stacked underscore df, we should have our values, okay? You can see how it's giving us. So I'll use the print, and I will use the print function to do that. So you can see it's giving us terms of the rows, columns, and you can see all the informations in terms of rows and columns. All right, instead of having them, okay, I'm using the df instead of the capital letter df1. That's what we're having the different information. So when I do this now, I'm going to have them in terms of rows and columns. So please take note, the df1, not the small letter df1. So please, because we're calling the wrong data set. So what is the right data frame we need to call df, capital letter df1. Then also we also have in terms of concatenate. So concatenate means we need to join two tables together. So the first one we're going to do in terms of the rows and the columns. So the first one, I'm going to uncomment this information here. So we have two data frame, data 1 and data 2. So you can see both of them. We have both of them, although we're not going to see the value, except I have to call them one after the other. So now I want to perform a comment. So to do this now, the first one we have here. So we want to do in terms of the rules. So do that, I'll say concat underscore df is equals to pd dot concat, and I'm going to select those columns, so in form of a list. So I'm going to say df2 comma df3, then close it. Then I'm going to specify in terms of axis equals to 1, because we want to convert them in terms of in terms of the rows, not columns, the rows. Then I'll say ignore index, meaning when I say ignore index, I mean ignore the index numbers of both information and give us a fresh index number. So I'll say index equals to true. Then when I run this now, concat df, you can see we have our information joined together. Now, the difference between concatenating in terms of the rows and column is that for the rows, the column names have to be identical, while for the columns, they don't have to be identical. So an example of operation like the columns we have here, which are on comments. So we have this data set, the df4, df5, and when I run this now, you can see we have the information, we have loaded information. Now we want to perform the concatenate. So to concatenate, I'll say the concat underscore the df is equal to pd.concat, and I specify in terms of which data frame we have to specify. So say df, take note, df4, comma df5, and the bracket. So I'm going to say axis is equal to 1. That's all. We don't need to use index numbers because we're not dealing with rows. We're dealing with columns here. So when I do this now and I run, before I run, let's call the concat underscore df again. And when I run this now, you can see I have been able to join two data frames together. Now we also have what we call the merge. Now the merge is to join two data frames based on a common column or index. So please take note of the difference. The other one is to join them in terms of rows and columns. But here now we're joining them based on a common index. So I'm going to uncomment this information here. And you can see we have two data sets, ID, name, age, and we have ID scores. So if I run this now, we have two data sets available already. Then what I'm going to do now is that I want to perform the merge. So to perform the merge, I'm going to say the merge underscore df is equal to df dot merge. Then we merge. Let me spell merge very well. Then we say which and which. So we say df6, df7, close bracket. Then we say on. On is a parameter in merge. So we say on which column. So we say on id, close, and we use the merge df. Okay, missing one right position. Oh. Okay, unexpected axis. So for the merge, the unexpected keyword axis. So what we are going to do in terms of the for the merge is that we are going to remove the brackets. Let's see. Okay, so you can see we have been able to merge this information. So remember to join the database based on the common column or index. Now, the next one we're going to look at now is the melt. Now, melt means to unpivot. Okay, in terms that's to unpivot, that means we want to arrange an information from a word format to a long format. Now, to do this, I'm going to uncomment this set of codes. So what I have now is a data frame where we have df, and I pass it into our data frame here. This is just a variable holding a dictionary of lists, and we pass it to data frame. And when we do this now, we have this information. All right. So the next thing we are going to do here is that we are now going to melt. That means we want to convert from a word format to a long format. So I'm going to remove this information here, and I'm going to say the melt underscore df is equal to, so for the melt, I'll say df1 dot the melt, and I'm going to be, so I'm going to say di underscore vat is equal to, then I'm going to specify that I want in terms of the di, that's the ID, the names. Okay, then we also have what we call the var names. So I'm going to write what's common between this information. We have ID, name, school, subjects. Okay, so what's common between both of them is subject. So I'll specify subject, then close the brackets. Then I'm also going to talk about the values. Now, what are those values? Those values are scores. So I'm going to specify again scores, scores. Then when I do this, close the bracket, then I say the melt underscore df. If I run this now, okay, names. Okay, it's a name, not name. So we have to remove the s, and when we run it, we should have our information. So you can see from a word format to a long format. So you can see the names are just repeating and the subjects are just repeating with the values. Okay, so that's for that. Then we also have what we call the group by. So the group by is to group data based on a certain column value, and we can perform what we call the aggregation. Now, the aggregation, I will just uncomment this set of codes here, and we'll run through. So we have the data frame, we have category A, B, B, that's the columns, and sales. Sorry, that's pardon me, that's the rows. Then sales, then we have the values inside of sales. So if we run this now, we have this information. Then we want to perform the group by. So meaning that I want to group my categories by the total sales. So to do that, I'm going to say the group underscore df is equal to so I'll say df8 dot group by, and we select the column we want to group first of all to create as a new column. So we'll say the category then dot sum, meaning that this category sum, meaning that I want to get all the sum of the informations. So we're going to pass in the terms of the sales. Okay, so for sales, so we say the group by category dot sum. So give us the sum of all the information in terms of categories. So when I do this now, group by group underscore df, if I run this now, you can see we have been able to group the total information as regarding each categories. So we have come to the end of the lecture. So please take note that in terms of group by, you can perform the sum, the mean, the max, the count, the median, the middle number, the mean, the median, the mode, standard deviation, and the variance.